Ovie Ikhuiwu is my guest, talking about his journey with the Lord, growing up in a pastor's home, dealing with sickness. So 1998, you come to Canada. What brought you to this country?
My dad saw a lot of opportunities here. He wanted us to have a better life. And I'm forever grateful that he brought us to Canada. And but coming here, I remember thinking I remember when I arrived in Canada, I thought it was the heaven I heard about all my life. I would see people out, just stare at people. It was a summertime. I fell in love with nature, just fell in love with the country. But there was another challenge that I had to go through.
So back in Nigeria, we talked about your sickness. That eventually ended.
Yes, sir.
You come here, you're 14 years old. You love the country,
Yeah.
but on a personal level, it was very difficult. You were
Yes.
bullied. Tell me about what happened.
So coming to Canada, I had a strong African accent. So in school, I had a nickname, Said What. So people called me Said What.
Oh.
So I just couldn't really express myself. And so people called me a lot of hurtful names. I was, I would go home. I couldn't tell my dad and my siblings what was going on in school because I was terrified. So being an African, you're just raised to be a very strong kid and just to defend yourself. So in school, I was bullied a lot. I was just a very awkward kid. Didn't really know how to express myself. So I had people that would just shove me in the hallways, would say things, I just don't like you, go back to your country.
Oh.
I heard that a lot. And
So sorry.
but thank God, he saw me through in those times.
I know they even had an incident where they threw your books in the toilet,
Yes.
just trying to demean you. And obviously Canada has changed a lot. We have many more folks have come from Africa, but at that time it was difficult. So what was that doing in your relationship with God?
I just didn't understand why I was going through all of this. First, I was a sick child, near-death experiences. Now I'm being bullied in Canada. So I had kids that spat on me on occasions, just out of like hatred. So this one time, a kid came to me by the toilet, and I was familiar with those kids, took my backpack, brought my books, and just dumped it in the toilet. And I was afraid, of course, and of course I'm a big guy. Now I'm a big guy, but then I was a big kid, but with a lot of fear in the inside. I didn't really know how to express myself. So I experienced stuff like that on occasions, called hurtful names, and it was really tough.
So how did you get through that into the place where you are now? As I see you, a very confident man, you have great passion, you want to be a light out there. So what happened in between these times when you're being bullied into how you've become this man today?
Eventually, I went to about 4 different high schools, and there were seasons the Lord just led, my family to a different city, went to a different high school. But my passion was soccer. Soccer was my escape route. So I played college soccer. So what happened was, soccer was my place that I released all my frustration. So eventually, the kids saw that this African kid is really good in soccer. That won me some friends, and the pressure was relieved. And so eventually, I had one more crazy challenge which eventually led me to dropping out of high school. One time at about, I think it was grade 10, I had a kid just really beat me up. And it was outside of it was not at my school, but it was a student from my school. And I remember this kid was just smashing my face nonstop.
Oh, no.
I still have the pictures to this day. I had a swollen face. And that was pretty much the last straw of the devil just literally wanted to just kill me. So after that experience, I was just a big mess. Went through another year of high school, and eventually I was just frustrated. I became a troubled kid. After soccer, I just wouldn't go to class, and eventually I just dropped out of high school.
What were your parents saying during this time?
My parents didn't know about it.
You were hiding it still from your parents?
I've always hid things from my parents. And it was just, going back to my parents, telling them what was going on would break their heart, and they would be mad at me. Solomon, you gotta be tough. So I didn't tell my parents. More so, I didn't want to break their heart. So I just enjoyed the punches, the trials.
So we're almost out of time, but we've got to end this on a good note here. How did you then come into this strong relationship with the Lord? Because obviously there was anger. There's sickness, there's beatings, you're being picked on, there's racism, all these things going on. to now where you've got a book called Love Rain Down. You want to encourage people, and I encourage people to get this book. I've been looking at it myself. Well done. How did you get to that place? So you're happily married now and going to be a dad.
You know, I've heard it say that hurting people hurt people. I'm a person that has a hurting past that want to use my past to see people healed. And I think I came to a place whereby I just knew that God has, it was the last straw, that there was red flags ahead of me with my partying and just being a troubled kid. So I came to a place whereby, God was just calling me, and I really wanted to just take my walk with God seriously. So he called me, and I responded to that call, and I just felt this calling to write this book because so many people like me then are hurting. And as an evangelist and a person that really loves Jesus, I want to really encourage people with just my love for Jesus and my story, my testimony.
Well, Solomon, I can tell you that comes right out of you. And I'm just so hurt when I hear that that was your experience in Canada. I'm glad you didn't give up on us and that you have a heart to reach this nation.
Thank you.
And, and if maybe you're out there and you've gone through that kind of bullying and difficulty and, where is God in this? And I think that's okay to ask those questions, absolutely. We got people standing by that can pray with you, encourage you. 1-866-273-4444 is our prayer lines. Always open, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Again, Solomon, thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
And we'll have more of 100 Huntley Street right after this.